job interview, the first question was, do you know how to diagram sentences? And I said, sure! Mr. Martin taught me how to diagram sentences. Even today, my wife and I, yeah, we'll light a fire, pour a little wine, slip into something comfortable, and whisper those 3 words we both want to hear. Let's diagram sentences.
Well, you know what a direct object is, don't you?
I don't really know.
You don't remember that, huh?
No.
Well, another guy we used to hang out with was Foden Lawrence, and I got to know him pretty well because most of our teachers seated us in alphabetical order. And so I was Lavery, he was Lawrence, and in most cases he was sitting behind me. And what I remember about Foden is that, well, he told a lot of stories, and some of them were true, probably. But he also used to make a lot of comments, and behind me, comments about the teacher under his breath, and the teacher never heard. So that's what I remember about Foden. But he's a pretty good guy.
You know, there were some weird names in our school.
Like Foden?
I like Foden, but I was thinking like Sterling Lamar Lease.
Oh, yeah.
Junior. That meant they actually named somebody else Sterling Lamar.
2 of them.
Yeah, and how about David K. Estes Fisher the third? Now, where is David? I'm sorry. What did the K mean?
What are you looking at, John?
What was it? I'm sorry. So you mean there were actually 3 people, David Kirkpatrick, Estes Fisher. Well, that was impressive. Hopefully there's not a 4th. There is. I thought there was. But folks, I don't understand. Why would parents name someone, their kid, for a damn hobbit? I mean, there's Frodo, Bilbo Baggins, and Foden. Sorry, Foden.
It's hard to imagine, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we used to hang out a lot with Walter Shepard. You remember him?
I do indeed.
Walter worked in the State Department for a lot of years and is now retired and living in Florida. And you and Sue came down to visit with us for a few days in Florida. We went down to Sarasota to see Walter and his wife Kay, and we had a lot of fun together. Went out to eat, did some shopping and so on. But I remember Walter and Sonny and Danny and several others, and even some juniors, often were in the same math classes as we were, and we used to compete for grades. And we used to compare when we got our test back. We all compare. I got 92, you got 91, and all that stuff. And I know the competition with the other guys and girls. Carol Ann Armcost, she was a year behind us, but she was a smart girl, and she often beat us in math. But that always made me study harder. And remember thinking about the math classes one time in the lunchroom after a geometry class, I think it was Mr. Fry, a group of us were sitting around the table and eating, and Jack Olson was sitting down at the end of the table, and I was about halfway listening while I was eating my lunch, and Jack was down there telling a story about a lumber camp up in the North Woods. And he said that the lumberjacks got a band together. They formed a band, and they called themselves the Logger Rhythms. Now, right at the moment when he said that, it kind of slowly caught up in my brain, and I was sipping milk. Now, across from me was one of those juniors. You may remember him, Phil Pfeffer, or Pfeiffer, whatever it was. And he got a bath that day. It came out of my nostrils, it came out of my mouth. And I caught the joke. was reading in the yearbook some things that Ralph Martin wrote about us, and among other things he said about me, much of his thinking comes from biblical instructions. Was I that transparent? And he went on to say, although somewhat slow to react, his thoughts, when they do emerge, are sensible, valuable, and constructive. I guess on balance I can take that. But then he sums it up. This is what I couldn't understand. He sums it up by saying, in short, Dave is an enigma. That's a puzzle. No, an enigma is a puzzle, John.
Right.
Well, I wonder what he was trying to say. Maybe he had just learned a new word, or he's playing Scrabble or something like that, picked up that word. But I always wondered about that. And then your biography, John, in the yearbook, did you really believe that the South will rise again? He makes you out to be some kind of an activist.
At best.
And in the class will, in our newsletter, you willed Mr. Leary 243 Goldwater buttons.
Yeah, I did.
I've been at your house a few times, John, and I've never seen your Confederate flag.
But you know, he made me into a real chick magnet too. He said, John also enjoys collecting stamps and coins. What? The other person that had a worse one was Sonny Lease. I don't know if you read that, but in it, I mean, you want to talk about being a chick magnet. Sonny has also written his own geometry book. Are you serious? He wrote a geometry book? Can you imagine all the girls, and Sonny gets close to him, whispers in their ear, you want to hear about some congruent triangle?
I never saw the girls get close to Sonny.
I didn't
Now, John, did you date anybody in high school?
No, actually I was pretty shy. But I have to confess there was one person I was in love with. My 10th grade history teacher, Miss Simmons.
Oh, my.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Now, I always ran to her class. I'd sit in the first row, and she would be talking with that with pencil. Oh, man, that was unbelievable. And I would daydream that she and I were climbing hand in hand to the top of the Eiffel Tower. Or walking through the Musée d'Orsay, looking at all of the Impressionists. And we'd go up to a Van Gogh, and I would say to her, Jackie, I would cut my ear off for you too. Of course, now I found out that every other boy felt exactly the same about Jackie Simmons. But Jackie,
Yeah, we really liked her. I've been trying to remember about my rich dating experiences in high school. And
Okay.
I do remember I dated, when I was a senior, I dated a blonde named Dorothy Seipel. She was a 10th grader. And we went out for a couple of months. She was a cute girl. And I wonder whatever happened to her. Maybe when we get to a reunion, somebody will know her and be able to tell me whatever happened to Dorothy Seipel. And as far as I can remember, the only other date I had with somebody in school was the senior prom. Now, do you remember? Is that your neighbors?
I don't
Is
know.
that your neighbors, John? You remember Nancy Mercer?
she's trying to forget you at this point.
Now, Nancy was a very nice girl. I always liked her in high school. But she agreed to go to the prom with me. I don't remember how many others I asked, but Nancy agreed to go to the prom with me. And I don't remember a lot about the experience. It's been, 50